In today's video, we are going to go over 3 components of mindful eating to utilize for fat loss. Now, we're just going to touch on these 3 components because they are honestly some of the main components it takes in mindful eating for you to get from a place of dieting consistently, macro tracking, and even macro tracking, and then getting to the place of true food freedom, which is, mindful eating. So, let's go ahead and dive right into it. So we're going to go into component number 1. So 1 is our proactive decision making. Now, this is exactly what it sounds like. This means we want to make decisions before going to grab for something. Something that I see happen a lot of the times is people will go to a restaurant, for example, and they won't look at the menu beforehand, which is totally fine. But sometimes if you're in your food healing journey, it can negatively impact you because you'll either feel like you have to reach for a salad and have to do that with grilled chicken, or you're gonna go balls to the wall and just choose the fattiest, most fried food possible and just continue to eat until, you can't eat anymore, and then you feel guilty about it later. So, proactive decision making, this helps prevent guilt because you are being conscious and aware, and these are the big components of it. Conscious and aware of what you're doing, simply put. The goal of mindful eating is to build ultimate awareness of your habits around food. The reason why people end up falling into diets or into old dieting patterns or old habits before dieting is because we're simply just not building awareness around what's actually beneficial for our bodies versus not. So the way you can make proactive decisions is ask yourself why before grabbing something. So, for example, if you are going into the pantry and you want some Oreos, maybe it's just a random craving that you have and you want to eat it for enjoyment, right? That's a good thing. It's okay to allow yourself to eat something out of pure enjoyment and because you want something. The difference here is before you go in, instead of going in, grabbing the entire box, opening the sleeve, and just eating an entire sleeve, right? That will lead to guilt. It also leads to overeating. Instead, make a decision of, okay, what's going to be my limitation? I'm going to go into the pantry. I want an Oreo, but I'm going to grab 3 to start instead of the whole thing. So go in there, open the sleeve, grab 3, put it on a napkin, close it, put it back in the pantry, and then go and enjoy your 3 Oreos. One of the components that is actually a bonus that I'm not adding here is eating slowly, savoring the food, not rushing through it, not being mindless about it, but just being super present with what you're doing or while you're eating is going to help you with that. So asking yourself why. If it's out of enjoyment, awesome. Just give yourself those boundaries beforehand because boundaries actually create more freedom with food. And on the other hand, if it's a negative emotion, stress, boredom, fatigue, etc., if you're having any of these before you're grabbing food, I want you to take a step back and reflect because most of the time it's just like a reaction of going to grab something because a lot of people do manage their stress with food, and so we don't want that to be the outlet. Instead, choose prayer, meditation, breath work, going on a walk, reading your Bible. Other healthier things outside of food can really help you heal that relationship with food so that you're not just reaching for food when you're stressed or sad or anything like that. So this can really help you with the proactive decision making. It's part of proactive decision making to just reflect and ask, how am I feeling right now? Is food the answer? Typically, food isn't the answer. We want to make it from a logical decision. So that is number 1. Number 2, we want to go into our nutrient checkpoints. So if you have ever tracked macros before, if you haven't, then this might be new to you, but macros are your foundational main foods that you need. So your protein, carbs, and fat. So once you have that basis foundation of those three main food groups, oh, and I accidentally deleted it, this can help you make more nutrient dense decisions. So when it comes to mindful eating, it's not just eating whatever you want. That's a very common misconception, and that's far from the truth. Can you still eat foods that you enjoy in moderation with mindful eating? Absolutely. That's part of the food freedom piece. But a massive part of mindful eating is just being aware of, am I fueling my body well with the foods that I'm putting in my body? What are these foods made up of? So utilizing macros, and if you have tracked macros, utilizing those skills of your portion sizes, your satisfied levels, those kind of things, and applying it in mindfulness. So the nutrient checkpoints are protein. So protein you want to have in 3 meals per day minimum. So, and I would say, 3 to 5 ounces is your minimum too for protein. So like if you have chicken or something, make that your minimum goal. Otherwise, try to shoot for like 25 to 30 grams per meal. That's going to be one of the main things because protein helps balance your blood sugar. There's so many benefits I can go into protein. We'll save that for another time. But that's one of the nutrient checkpoints. Carbs, because this produces the main energy source in your body. And of course, a healthy fat. So, avocado, nuts, nut butters, coconut oil, etc. Things like that. So these are like our macronutrients, right? So these are the main nutrient checkpoints we want to look for when you are building a meal, when you're mindfully eating. That way you're not tracking the numbers, you're not saying yes or no to certain foods. It's just, do I have these main 3 things, yes or no? And with carbs, also alongside of this is your fiber. So this is another thing. So this is mainly from fruits and veggies. That's one of the best ways to get your fiber. Also like seeds, like chia seeds, things like that. That goes alongside with your carbs, but fiber, we always shoot for a minimum of 25 grams per day. Okay, so that's a really big thing. So the other nutrient checkpoints throughout the day is you want to have 60 ounces of water minimum. Now I'm talking minimum. I live in Colorado, so we live at high altitude. I need way more than 60 ounces. This is the bare minimum. A lot of clients that come to me typically are around like 32 ounces, and it's just such a crucial part to help with digestion. It helps absorption. It helps detoxification in your body. It gives you energy, helps with fatigue, brain fog. I mean, the list goes on. There's a reason why most of our body is made up of water. So that is the minimum. Also, we want our vitamins and minerals. You can get these through electrolytes, and then mainly, organic whole foods, mainly fruits and vegetables, but good electrolyte. I like Redmond Relight, but you want to make sure, if you want to get the proper vitamins and minerals, which we don't want to look too deep into this, we want to do the best that we can, but looking for foods that are made in good soil, grew in good soil, things like that. So these are the main checkpoints. Stopping when satisfied, not full. We're not necessarily going into this one today, but this is a really, really big piece of our nutrient checkpoints. It's not necessarily a nutrient, but it's a big checkpoint to keep an eye on when you are navigating mindful eating. So these are the main checkpoints, making sure you're having all of these things in your diet every single day. Now, I'm not telling you, if you notice, I'm not telling you you can or can't have a certain food. I'm just saying pay attention to these things. Make sure that this is the main source. And then if you want to implement things like ice cream or cookies or cake or different things that you enjoy every once in a while, that's great. And it's not going to negatively impact your progress. But if we're doing this for the most part, that's when your body is going to function the best. So that brings us to checkpoint number 3, which is our daily reflection. So mindful eating is a really big mind game. I mean, at the end of the day, we need to get in tune with what our body needs and become aware of what those needs are. That's kind of saying the same thing twice, but anyway, daily reflection. So ask yourself questions to help you overcome like positive or negative emotions and to reflect on the good things. So this is something I teach my clients. And so these questions are, what went well today? What didn't go so well? Because we want to reflect on the positive and the negative, right? It's coming from a neutral standpoint, from a place of not judging yourself, not feeling guilty about anything that you've done today, but just from a neutral standpoint of like, okay, if I were to reflect and see what went well and what didn't go well, what would I say, right? And this is just being really honest with yourself, because guess what? If we want to overcome negative patterns, we have to bring them to the surface, right? Like bringing the darkness into light is what helps us heal from it. It's the same thing with food, right? In our spiritual journeys, bringing darkness into light, same thing with food. What do I choose to forgive myself on? And notice the wording there. It's a choice. Forgiveness is a big part of this journey because you're going to mess up at the end of the day when you're eating mindfully, especially in the beginning. I just remember a ton of the times I would constantly overeat, or I would undereat, or I would eat something that I felt really bad about because of my dieting rules in my head. And I had to constantly reflect and say, you know, like, is this a healthy thought pattern? Is this going to help me grow? Is this going to help me get to food freedom? It's a conscious choice to forgive yourself, right? And to let go of those negative thought patterns around food. And then last, couple of things here. What felt good versus didn't feel good. Because this is what went well. This is from like a factual standpoint. This is from an emotional standpoint. So we kind of want to have a mix of both. Because sometimes, you know, that guilt can linger and maybe eating a specific thing didn't feel good and we need to recognize why. And then last is, what do I choose to do differently tomorrow? Okay, these are the main things, main questions to reflect on. This is also intentional. Choose to do differently. So, for example, if you didn't enjoy something that you did today, what didn't go so well? Maybe I overindulged. Maybe I ate one more Oreo than I should have. You know, and I felt guilty about it. So tomorrow, if I want to have some more Oreos, I'm going to choose to stop when I'm satisfied and not eat mindlessly and overindulge. These questions can really, really help you heal your relationship with food and overcome those negative thought patterns that really keep you in the same spot. So, reflecting, there is way more to mindful eating, but I wanted to give you the basics. These are the three of the components of mindful eating to utilize for fat loss. Number 1 is that proactive decision making. Number 2 is those nutrient checkpoints. And number 3 is that daily reflection. I hope that this helped. I would love to hook you up with a free resource. I have my mindful eating food log that you can check out. Just go ahead and shoot me a message on Instagram saying 3 components. And then if you really resonated with this and you're tired of dieting, you really want to find some freedom with food, even macro tracking if you're over it, I have my booking link below where you can book a call with me, and just so we can have a conversation to see if or how I can even help you, point you in the right direction, and if coaching makes sense, we'll talk about coaching. But overall, my goal is just to help point you in the right direction, and if you feel led to do that, the link is down below. Hope you have a good one, and we'll see you in the next video.